The top story on the Drudge Report today is a Politico article where members of Congress, Republican members, are not allowed to go to the Gulf and look at the damage. And the Democrats are allowed to and are having paid trips. Oil spill visits get partisan, and they are not allowed to go visit. So not only are the citizens not allowed to go visit, but everybody else is not allowed to visit. And you've got international waters out there, Taiwanese, Dutch, Norwegian, others. One Taiwanese ship can scoop up 500,000 barrels a day. That is an incredible number. That's the Associated Press reporting that. And Obama is still blocking it. But now because the pressure is so high, they're saying these hurricanes are going to blow all this oil in. Why won't you? Why for 70-plus days have you been blocking countries from helping? You want this to be worse so you can get your carbon tax. He's saying, okay, in the next month, I'm going to have lawyers look at it, and if these companies can jump through all these hoops that are impossible, then I'll let foreign governments do this. They've agreed to let 12 foreign governments or corporations help. But BP is in international waters. Why is BP in international waters then on our shores telling media and governors and Congress people what they can do? Why is BP controlling the medical care people are supposedly getting? Why is BP telling their employees and contractors they can't wear masks? Just like the firefighters and police were told, you can't wear masks because the 9/11 dust is not bad for you. And if you do wear that, we'll have to admit it's bad. So just go ahead and breathe it and die later, and we're not going to fund you, by the way, you schmuck, you chump. I mean, these corporate people know we're gullible. They know we're sedate. They know we lay down and follow orders. And that's a recipe for enslavement, a recipe for ruination. So it's time, my friends, it's time to start getting angry. It's time to start getting serious. Look at this. Hurricane Alex churns towards Mexico, Texas coast. They thought it was going to turn more towards central Mexico, which is bad for them, but good for the Gulf states, because then that wouldn't create too many waves. But now because it's turned up towards Texas and it is creating 6 to 10-foot swells, the buoys are showing, and the NOAA is reporting, the National Weather Association, and it's blowing huge swells in, and that oil is accelerating because most of the oil is out to sea. It's now accelerating towards Louisiana, Mississippi, and Florida. And then if a hurricane comes in later, more from the east towards Texas, it's going to blow it into Texas and Mexico. But right now it's coming up towards the Texas-Mexico border, became a hurricane overnight, and is blowing it more towards where the currents are going. But it keeps leaking, it keeps leaking, it keeps leaking, and Obama just says it could be years. This is a new way of life, but if you'll let him pass a carbon tax, then he might let the ships in. Just like he told Senator Kyle, if you'll pass amnesty, then I might secure the border. But I've got to keep that border violent so I can lie to the public and tell them that amnesty will fix it when there'll still be narcotics being brought in. So Hurricane Alex turns towards the Gulf of Mexico. Rick Perry declares state of emergency in Texas. So I'm bracing here in Austin for the, I've looked at the science, especially the dispersant, and then the off-gassing chemicals that are released from oil. Yes, oil doesn't get picked up and mixed with water and go into the atmosphere, but the byproducts and the benzene and the heavy metals can get mixed with water. That's why you can have muddy rain. That's why you can have fish rain or toads rain. When a tornado, a water spout, a tornado in the ocean or a lake sucks them up. I grew up in Dallas, and I'd look out at Lake Ray Hubbard, and you'd see tornadoes on tearing up houses and tearing. I only saw this a few times. It's incredibly beautiful, but also devastating. And you'd see them tearing up houses, tearing up trees, and the tornado would be brown, full of junk and dirt. Then it would hit Lake Ray Hubbard. And I'd be watching this from our house on the hill, looking down, and it would hit, and they'd turn into water spouts and turn blue. They would be brown or black, full of leaves and dirt and grass and parts of buildings, and then they just come across from raw lead. I was in Rockwall watching, and those tornadoes would hit, and they just turn blue. They turned blue as they sucked up the water. I'm not saying the houses being destroyed was beautiful, but the water spouts were beautiful. It's the same thing, and it's not just that water spouts are all over the Gulf. I mean, I've been on a cruise in the Gulf and seen water spouts one after the other and stood on the deck of the ship as they came over us. They weren't the tornadic type. They were the smaller water spouts. But seeing now I'm digressing off into meteorology and earth changes. The issue here is that, yes, the byproducts and the toxic chemicals and the dispersants they're using. In fact, Google the amount of dispersant used in the Gulf, because I keep getting my numbers crossed. It's like I said, that Taiwanese trawler did 50,000 barrels, but it was 500,000 barrels. The mine just can't get around this stuff. And I want to say they said 200,000 gallons of this had been used, of the super deadly dispersant. They've got planes flying over spraying it. And I looked up that dispersant and did some research, and it is true that that dispersant goes right up into the rain. So I'm looking forward, I guess, to all the dispersant. Well, Louisiana, Mississippi is already enjoying dispersant raining down on them. And now the Washington Post, now the EPA is talking about Gulf evacuations. They're not saying how big. So this is going from bad to worse. Hurricane Alex churns towards Mexico, Texas coast. And they knew they could have gone in with those big ships and scooped up almost all the oil. Because they've really developed the science since then. But since they blocked it and used dispersant instead, it's going to be a bigger disaster and maybe cataclysmic. Or the response to it may be cataclysmic. The martial law they're gearing up for. Hurricane Alex turns towards Mexico, Texas coast. BP access to medical care, controls access to medical care for Gulf oil cleanup workers, denying that they're sick. I mean, that's what they always do. A bunch of them have died. Hundreds and hundreds are in the hospital. Medical doctors are saying their lungs are full of toxic chemicals. They're going into cardiac arrest. All right, from the Deepwater Horizons, it says that surface dispersant used, it's always worse than I say, 1.3 million gallons of that deadly chemical. 1.3 million gallons. That's from the Associated Press. That's directly from the BP's own site. And another type that they're using subsea, they're putting into the ocean, 576,000 gallons. Total dispersant used, 1,606,000 gallons. Holy mackerel. I mean, let the crude oil come in and let the states clean it up. Let the ships come in and get it before it comes in. Don't spray 1.6 million gallons of stuff that'll literally eat the skin off your body. They're reporting that stuff is eating boats. It's so strong, that's in mainstream news, that it's eating the boats. You know what, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not having my kids breathing this. And if this stuff blows into Austin, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go to Montana or something. What happens if 20 million people are evacuated? I mean, they had less than 300,000 or so evacuated out of New Orleans, and Austin was a circus. Houston was a circus. Almost bankrupted the cities paying for it. What is going to happen here? I can't believe that terrorist Obama has done this. And I've been calling him a terrorist for 2 weeks, on record calling for criminal indictments, blocking the states and counties and cities, and blocking international aid, and many others are saying that. So now he's saying, well, I'm going to let the lawyers start building a plan that'll take a month or so, maybe. By then, more hurricanes will come in. I mean, this guy's a terrorist. And let me tell you something. Jindal and Barber and all those other governors and Christ, that's a cop-out saying the feds say we can't put berms up. The feds say, hey, you have a responsibility when treason's going on, and the feds have no jurisdiction on your state ground and in those estuaries. You go out there and you tell that Coast Guard, get out of your way. I mean, it's like anybody in a uniform is now God as long as that illegal alien, Barry Soetoro, tells them so. This is definitely a false flag. There is no doubt it's a false flag against America, to bankrupt us, to have a big distraction going into the election. This morning I woke up at like 3:30 a.m. and it just hit me. I said, of course, it's not just a smokescreen for the Iran attack. It's not just a smokescreen to get the carbon tax through and a pretext. it's also for the elections, where it's going to be so insane building up into November that people won't remember government health care takeover. They won't remember the gun grabbing. They won't remember all the lies, all the torture. It'll just be complete bedlam if this continues. I mean, if they let's search the latest total oil spill. Total oil in the Gulf. They keep lying about it, so it's always worse than what they say.